Hi everyone, my name's Jim and today I'm going to share with you 6 games that I think deserve sequels. I consider half of these games overlooked and underappreciated and hopefully you will know some of them. Let's start with number 6. The Punisher was released in 2005 on PC, Xbox and PS2, developed by Volition, studio most known for Saints Row and Red Faction. Based on the comics, it tells the story of Frank Castle, a one-man army whose mission is to seek revenge on those who've murdered his family. The story isn't bad and it keeps you intrigued, but the reason most of us still love this game is the interrogation system. Gameplay-wise, it's Max Payne without bullet time. Instead, we can interrogate any enemy we'll encounter and decide if they live or die. It's gruesome, it's censored, but you can easily get the patch for PC, removing the censorship. Sound design is good, boss fights are interesting, you will visit a lot of varied areas, so what's not to love? As the Punisher, you collect points based on how well you've decimated the enemies, and points are used to unlock more weapons and collectibles. Everything in this game serves a purpose and you have no idea how many times I've replayed this thing on my Xbox back in the day. The only bad thing that I can think of is that the PC port has bad controls. Interrogating is way harder than on the consoles. But that's it. So why is there no sequel? Probably because the game received mixed reviews criticizing the game's sound effects and the linear and repetitive gameplay, but praising its system of torture, the storyline, the amount of violence and Punisher himself. Personally, I have nothing against linear and repetitive gameplay as long as it's fun, and here it's fun as hell. I doubt we'll ever get a sequel, but a guy can dream. Time Shift was released in 2007 on PC, Xbox 360 and PS3. Developed by Saber Interactive, the game introduced a mechanic of slowing, stopping and reversing time, something I still haven't seen in another FPS games to this day. Sure, there are games that let you slow time like Fear or stop it like Dishonored, but reverse? That's rare. This mechanic is used to solve puzzles, but also to get an advantage on the battlefield. The story centers around Dr. Aiden Crone, an asshole who has stolen an alpha time suit and changed the course of history. We play as an unnamed protagonist who puts on a worse version of the suit and travels in time to stop him. Time Shift is basically a typical shooter with regenerating health, good graphics and amazing gimmick. It's hard to get bored of slowing, stopping or reversing time. You did not enjoy killing the enemy? No problem! Reverse time and kill him in a more stylish way. The game received positive reviews, so it's weird that no sequel was announced. But why am I so interested with this thing getting a sequel? Well, it's because Time Shift was actually done 2 times. You can play a demo version that was released in 2006 and it was a completely different game. It had different weapons, different graphics, different protagonists, even the AI was better. The only thing those games have in common is the time gimmick and fighting a tyrant. I really wish we could play full version of that demo. But will we ever get a sequel? Time will tell. Clive Barker's Undying is a horror first-person shooter developed by EA Los Angeles and released on PC in 2001. The game's story was written by acclaimed horror writer Clive Barker. He's mostly known for the Hellraiser franchise, which I adore. Undying follows the adventures of 1920s Irish paranormal adventurer Patrick Galloway as he investigates the mysterious occult happenings at the estate of his friend Jeremiah Covenant. I consider this game to be one of the most unique gaming experiences I've ever had. Half of this success is the fact that the game uses the Unreal Engine, the first one, which to me is still the best, and most of the games created with it have that one-of-a-kind atmosphere. It's hard for me to find anything wrong with this game. It's a standard retro shooter, but with magic spells. Sound design is top-notch, and while graphics are outdated, they still have charm to them. The story is amazing and keeps you on your toes, so why were we deprived of a sequel? Mostly because it did not sell well and received just favorable reviews. A sequel was planned, but cancelled. Guess that's another reason to shit on EA. Shame on you. Rise and Fall is actually the most interesting game on this list. Developed by Stainless Steel Studios and released exclusively on PC in 2006, it combines the elements of a strategy and an action game. So how does it work? Imagine Age of Empires, but with one button you can change the view to third or first person perspective and command your troops from that view while simultaneously fight the enemies with your character. It's amazing, and the reason I still remember this game, even if it was released in a somewhat questionable state. Stainless dudes are mostly known for a classic RTS Empire Earth. As they were working on Rise and Fall, Midway Games, their publisher, cut their funds, which led to closing of Stainless and them finishing only 90% of this title. Midway then apparently fixed the bugs and released the game. It's a tragic situation, and I wish Stainless dudes were treated differently. That's probably the reason we'll never get a sequel to this classic. And that's a shame, because the idea of combining strategy with an action game and realistic graphics should be explored further. Rise and Fall received mixed reviews because of the state the game was released in. Nowadays the game can be run easily and was patched by the community. You can still play the multiplayer with Game Ranger, and both solo campaigns are lots of fun. So go fight for the glory of ancient Greece or Egypt. Total Overdose is an open-world third-person shooter developed by Deadline Games and released on PC, Xbox and PS2 in 2005. The easiest way to describe this game is to call it a Mexican GTA with lots of character. The game is funny as hell. The story reminds me of these 90s action movies where everything is so over the top that it's hilarious. You play mostly as Ramiro, who's tasked by his injured twin brother to pose as a DEA agent to uncover who killed his friend Ernesto. Gameplay wise, it's similar to GTA, free roaming through the town and going to your next objective, but also familiar to Max Payne. Every time you jump, you get a bullet time effect. There are also special attacks called Loco Moves, which players can pick up by scoring large numbers of points and combo kills. These Loco Moves are the reason why I still remember this game. They are fun, silly and fit the atmosphere. Soundtrack should also be praised, as the music is perfect and I always have a grin on my face when I drive around and suddenly Comprendes Mendes starts playing on the radio. Yeah, big brain music. Sadly, Total Overdose did not sell well and got mixed reviews. A sequel was planned, named Total Overdose 2 Tequila Gunrise. It would have featured the entire map of Mexico. I still think this game deserves a sequel. As Saints Row becomes more Fortnite-ish, it would be nice to play another game where unrestrained carnage is the main objective. Remember Unreal? The game released in 1998 and developed jointly by Epic Games and Digital Extremes. It's hard to forget one of the best shooters ever released. The atmosphere, the graphics, and especially the soundtrack are the holy trinity of what makes this game timeless. In 1999, an expansion pack, Return to Napali, was developed by Legend Entertainment, and it was still amazing. Some people might not agree, but I enjoy it as much as the base game. So did Unreal ever get a sequel? Yes, but it's a proof that we're living in the darkest timeline. Unreal 2, The Awakening, or should I call it The Sleepening, might be the worst sequel ever. Sure, there's Blood 2, but Blood 2 is bad because the publisher didn't give Monolith enough time to finish it. This game took 3 years to make, and it looks like a failed abortion. It was done by the guys who did the expansion pack to the first game, and it's really hard for me to comprehend how did this happen. Did all the people that made Return to Napali quit? Unreal 2 follows the path of Red Faction 2 and Deus Ex Invisible War, watering down any atmosphere, interesting story or gameplay the originals had. It's a boring snooze fest that looks like a retarded Halo mod made by a 12-year-old. It has no atmosphere, nothing linking it to the original one, so yeah, I am still waiting for an actual Unreal sequel that will retain the atmosphere, music and the gameplay of the original, or hopefully will expand it. I remember when back in 2004 or 5 I bought Unreal 2, and when I played it I was so disappointed that I've actually cried. It looked worse than the first one, had constant loadings for some reason, and would crash harder than my grandpa in a wheelchair. The only unreal thing about that game is the fact that it was released. Unreal 2 doesn't exist. So, that's the end of my list. Hope you've enjoyed it. Write down in the comments which games you wish had sequels. I might make a follow-up episode to this one because there are a lot of games that deserve a sequel. Also, subscribe and check out my other videos. I'm trying to expand my YouTube horizons. Thank you for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!